Hello everyone and welcome back. For those of you who are new here, my name is McKenna and I tell the stories of those who can't tell it themselves. Before we get started, I have a very important announcement. If you are not interested in hearing that, you can go ahead and fast forward to the timestamp below. Otherwise, please stick with me because this is a very important message. Recently, I posted a video about the crimes of John Smith. He was convicted of murdering his first wife. He is believed to be responsible for the disappearance and death of his second wife, Betty Fran Smith. John's third wife, who is living, reached out to us in the comment section of that video because she wants to let everybody know that he is up for parole in December of this year, so he has the potential to be released in 2 months. She is desperate to spread the word about his upcoming parole hearing and is asking all of us to take action and write the parole board so that he is not released on good behavior. She, along with everybody else involved in the investigation and this case, truly believe that given the opportunity, John Smith could murder again. So I will leave all of the information needed to write the parole board down below in the description box. Feel free to watch the video if you haven't already. Feel free to use that video as a catalyst for conversation. You can share the video and share with your friends the importance of writing into the parole board and keeping this man behind bars. With all of that being said, if you haven't done so already and you enjoy learning about missing persons and true crime, or if you just like hanging out with me, feel free to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Moving forward in this video, it is going to be a podcast style, so feel free to work and listen, or if you like watching all of the pictures, you will begin to see pictures of the people and the places that we are discussing. So with that being said, let's get started. 9-year-old Asha Degree went missing on Sunday, February 13th, 2000 in Shelby, North Carolina. Her family was pretty typical and consisted of her 10-year-old brother, her mom, and her dad. This Sunday was like any other Sunday for the Degree family. They went to church, spent time visiting family at their aunt's house, and their dad headed off to his second job while mom took Asha and her brother O'Brien home. Asha and her brother had a pretty regular schedule, and so they went to bed at their normal school night time of 8:30 p.m. They knew that in the morning they were going to have to wake up slightly earlier than usual because they normally took a nighttime bath before bed, but the power was out due to an accident down the road, and so they would need to put that off until the following morning. Now, stories about what happens in the next few hours are conflicting and difficult to follow, making it all the more difficult to pin down exactly what happened. All of the accounts concur that the electricity comes back on sometime in the middle of the night, so we know that to be fact, but all of the other accounts are slightly skewed. The conflicting facts surround when Asha's father, Harold, returns home and whether or not he ever leaves again that evening. Some sources state that Harold returns home from his second job around 12:30 in the morning, watches a few hours of television, and then heads off to bed around 2:30 a.m. This account is strange to me, though, because I've also read that the Degree family did not even own a TV, but I haven't been able to confirm this with multiple sources. Other accounts say that Harold returned home from his second job, leaves the home to buy the kids Valentine's Day candy. After all, it is now the wee morning hours of Valentine's Day, and then he returns home and goes to bed at 2:30. And again, other accounts state that he didn't come home first at all, but headed straight away to buy candy, but was still in bed by 2:30. And finally, some stories state that Harold returned home at 12:30, where he found Asha watching television and told her to go to bed. But not all of these stories come from significant sources, and so it is difficult to distinguish fact from fiction. And to top it all off, there is still the idea that they may not have even owned a TV, so we can't be sure of exact details that evening. And this is one of the problems with online forums. We begin to see unconfirmed stories, and while people mean well, it can muddle a case and ultimately be detrimental. Regardless, what we can be sure of is that Harold reports checking on the kids before heading off to bed at 2:30 a.m. Asha and her brother share a room, and he says that he saw both children in bed sleeping before heading off to bed himself. Now, later in the morning, still very early, but it's not clear on what exact time, Her brother O'Brien sees Asha standing in their bedroom, which he doesn't count as strange or abnormal because he assumed she had gotten up to use the bathroom, and shortly after he heard sounds coming from her bed, which he described as a creaking or squeaking type noise, and so he just thought she was adjusting herself in bed or moving around to get comfortable, but he never opened his eyes to look and see what was going on. Asha and O'Brien's mother, Aquila, woke up at 5:45 in the morning because, again, she knew she had to get Asha and O'Brien up and bathed and ready for school, and the children's alarm was set for 6:30. So Aquila got up, used the bathroom, and then went into her children's bedroom to wake them up. She makes it a point to say that she used the bathroom and started running bath water before going in to wake them up, and that the bathroom is only 2 feet away from Asha and O'Brien's bedroom. But when she went to wake them up, O'Brien was in his bed quietly asleep, but Asha was nowhere to be found. She started frantically searching for her, even looking next to O'Brien's bed because sometimes she'd get up in the middle of the night and lie next to his bed and fall asleep. She checked every room, every closet. She got dressed, woke up her husband, and they checked their cars to make sure she wasn't there, and then they called their family. Harold's mother lived right across the street, but Asha wasn't there. They call Asha's aunt, but she hasn't seen her either. And after she knew that Asha hadn't wandered off to be with family, Aquila called her own mother, who told her to hang up and call the police immediately. Harold called 911 and reported Asha missing, and police reported to their apartment by 6:40 a.m. to search for Asha. They brought along search dogs, which I think we can all agree is extremely proactive given the fact that some police departments wait hours or even days to take action. The search dogs were unable to pick up any scent of Asha. After the home was searched and there was still no sign of Asha, at around 7 o'clock a.m. they expanded the search to surrounding neighborhoods and were accompanied by family and friends in the search. Not any sign of Asha was found, and the police began processing the home. In most cases like this, you'd expect to find some sign of forcible entry or evidence that Asha had been taken against her will, but what they found spoke to the contrary. In fact, they found items missing, suggesting that she had left the home of her own free will. Her school backpack was missing, along with multiple items of clothing, shoes, her purse, which I can only assume is a child's change purse, and a neighbor actually reported to police that they saw her walking alone away from her home on that dark early morning. Additionally, Harold and Aquila found all of the doors in the home locked, so it appeared as though she may have left the house and used her own house key to lock the door behind her. Now, the question is, was this a planned escape? Her parents say that there is no way that this is the case. In fact, they claim that she was terrified of the dark, she was afraid of storms, and she was also afraid of dogs. Now, the children in the home lived a pretty sheltered life, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but they had very little interaction with others outside of school, church, and youth basketball. This is where the family spent their time and allowed their children to socialize. So it would be strange to believe that at 9 years old, Asha would plan an escape from her home, especially given the fact that there weren't any abuse or neglect allegations. And for all intents and purposes, her parents were extremely attentive to her and her brother. She was described as shy and timid and not very comfortable speaking to strangers or acquaintances, so nobody can grasp why she would leave in the middle of the night. The FBI got involved with this case and believes from the evidence found that Asha would have planned this in advance due to the fact that multiple changes of clothing were found to be missing, and O'Brien was never woken up in the middle of the night to her packing. So the FBI believes that the items she intended to take with her were already prepared and packed in advance. Initially, the family had been looked at in her disappearance because, after all, it is suspicious that such a young girl went missing from a secure home in the middle of the night, but this quickly ceased when eyewitnesses came forward with information. Between 3:30 and 4:15 in the morning, 2 separate witnesses saw Asha in a long-sleeved white shirt and long pants walking alone in the rain on Highway 18. Now, Highway 18 is a 2-lane highway that she would have been very familiar with, given the fact that it was the same road she took to school, and these witnesses saw her heading away from her home toward town. No one called the police at the time of these sightings. One motorist did attempt to make contact with her, making a U-turn and pulling up alongside of her, but when he did this, she ran into the woods which paralleled the highway. Again, this motorist did not call call the police. Of course, searches continued, but there were no more sightings of Asha and no more evidence recovered until February 17th. They continued their search along Highway 18. They questioned a local resident along that same route, and on February 17th, this woman remembered something she had found on the 15th that until now seemed unrelated or insignificant. She found a Mickey Mouse hair bow, a green marker, and a pencil right inside the door of the tool shed. Now, the shed belonged to Turner's Upholstery off of the North Carolina Highway 18. She gives police permission to search, and they found candy wrappers inside the shed as well. Asha's family was able to confirm that not only did these items belong to her, but the candy wrappers matched the same type of candy that Asha had recently been given following a basketball game the previous weekend before she went missing. And even though they have now confirmed that Asha had indeed been there in that shed, perhaps hiding out, it took 18 months for another lead to present itself. In August of 2001, a contractor was cleaning out land off of Highway 18, nowhere near the shed Asha had been suspected to have been, and in the opposite direction, in fact, of the area she had been seen. He dug up a black trash bag that had been hidden on his property. He picked up the bag, and inside he found another black trash bag, and inside of that, he found Asha's backpack. And though he had not been following her case in the news, and in fact didn't even know that she was missing, he happened to mention his findings to his wife, who knew exactly what he had come across. They contacted the police and they extensively searched their property. But all they find is animal bones, which is not surprising given the area, but more interesting, they found a pair of men's khaki pants. The bags that the backpack were found inside were sent off to a federal lab for testing, but due to what they call a pending investigation, the results were never released, and this goes for the pants as well. The pants could very well have been deemed unrelated, but regardless, no information was released in either instance. Obviously, this is an open investigation, and this could account for why the FBI has remained so tight-lipped. Now, as far as theories are concerned, why is Asha's backpack double bagged? I think we can agree that there is no likely reason that Asha would have disposed of her own backpack in this way. Even if she wanted to get rid of it, I don't think that a 9-year-old would use 2 trash bags and bury their own backpack. I think a child of that age would simply find a dumpster or a trash can and get rid of it. And likewise, why is the backpack double bagged to begin with? Was someone trying to preserve it? Was this a trophy of sorts? Or did someone want it to be found, knowing that the property was soon to be excavated? I think we would need more information about the condition of the backpack, the trash bags, and the property to draw better conclusions regarding this aspect of the investigation, but regardless, these are very important questions to be asking. Police and the FBI agree that foul play is likely in this case. Her family agrees at this point that all of the evidence suggests that she left the home that night or early morning on her own, though no one knows why, but everyone agrees that even if she left of her own free will, the evidence suggests that she did indeed meet foul play. In 2014, Donald Ferguson was arrested by authorities. In 1990, 7-year-old Shalonda Poole went missing and was found 24 hours later behind an elementary school. She had been found sexually assaulted, stabbed, and strangled. This case went unsolved for years until a DNA sample from the case was linked to Ferguson, who knew the family and had helped in the search for Shalonda during the time of her disappearance. Ferguson had actually been in North Carolina at the time of Asha's disappearance. Now, there are differences in the case for sure. He knew Shalonda and her family, so in her case, he could have likely been premeditating this crime and grooming her for some time, which is very different from Asha's case. However, what if he simply saw her walking along Highway 18 alone in the dark, in the rain, and this was just a crime of opportunity and Asha was the perfect victim? But this still begs the question, why did Asha leave her home to begin with? Some suggest that a recent loss of a basketball game was enough to make her want to run away. She was said to be the star player, and she had to, for some reason, sit the game out, and witnesses say that she and many players were seen crying and very upset after the game. Was this really really enough to make a 9-year-old run away over a week later? I've heard other accounts about a book that she was in the middle of reading, and the book was about a runaway who went on these glorified adventures, but even so, running away from home unprovoked, especially with forethought, as the FBI suggests, is totally out of character for her. In 2015, the FBI announced that they intended to reinvestigate the case, and they, along with the community, put up a reward of $45,000 for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the individual responsible for this crime. After 1 year, in May of 2016, a tip was received by the FBI that led to an announcement. They announced to the public that the night of Asha's disappearance, she is seen getting into a vehicle. Now, the description of the vehicle is fuzzy, and it was either an early 70s dark green Lincoln Mark IV or a dark green early 70s Ford Thunderbird along Highway 18, where she was last seen by witnesses. Looking at these vehicles, it is very easy to see how they could be mistaken for one another, but either way, no license plate was reported. This tip wasn't even reported until 2016, so obviously the FBI found it credible to release it to the public. However, why would someone wait so long to report this, and why didn't they call the police at the time? And how does this affect the timeline? Was this before or after she went to the shed we know her to have visited? Was this during the daylight? Was she dropped off from this car and then went to the shed? Did she know the person driving the vehicle, given the fact that she was shy and timid and didn't like speaking to strangers? Since 2017, the FBI has conducted an additional 300 interviews, but no new information or evidence has come about to suggest why Asha left her house that night, who was driving the green vehicle that may have picked her up along the highway, or why her backpack was found double-bagged and hidden on newly excavated property. If you have any information about Asha's disappearance, I will leave all the contact information below. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I want to encourage you to leave your thoughts below. What happened to Asha? Why would she leave her home unprovoked, in the middle of the night, not telling anybody, taking stuff with her? It was almost as if she was running away, but was she running away? Please let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.